Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with the one and only Mark Silverman of Silverman & Associates. And Mark, it is always good to be with you on the radio.
Always happy to be here, Ron.
We have a lot of interesting things to talk about today and how you can retire with peace of mind. And that's what this show is all about, to make sure everything is in harmony and that you cover all your bases and or whatever other analogy that I can think of today. We'll talk about that. But it's important to come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman. And if you'd like to do that, here's your number, 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. One more time, that is 520-333-7601. Mark, I know you've had an outstanding week and you're ready to give some good advice to folks out there in radio land. And today, let's talk about being out of tune. It's sort of a musically themed program, and we always talk about hitting the right notes and all that sort of thing. But even if you have a solid financial plan in place, things can quickly get out of tune if you don't make regular adjustments from time to time. So I thought today we could talk about some of the areas where we often see people get out of tune in their financial plan. What about with future tax considerations? Do you see a lot of people getting out of tune in that regard?
Yeah, and I think it's important you make a good point, Ron. This business is about, financial planning is really about making adjustments on an ongoing basis. If it was the point where you just put your investments in certain buckets and just forget about it, people like me wouldn't even have a job. So it's important to make adjustments to your portfolio as your needs change and evolve, and as the markets change and evolve. So you always want to make sure those two are working together for you. But by the same token, the future tax considerations is an important one. Most advisors, unfortunately, are just focused on, in selling investment or insurance products. They don't really look at the down the road, or don't even look at tax implications, which is unfortunate, because at the end of the day, what you make is determined by net fees and net of taxes. So, and too many advisors don't look at the tax consequences. I'm amazed, because when we meet with people, we take a look at their tax return, and unfortunately, a lot of people come in and say, my current advisor or this other person I met with doesn't even want to see my tax returns, which is unfortunate, because how can you really look and help somebody if you're not looking at all the different pieces of their puzzle? And taxes is a big one.
All of that certainly makes sense. And I know that as a fiduciary, you care about the best interest of your clients. And I don't see how you could fulfill that kind of a mission unless you took all that into consideration.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about other ways that folks can get out of tune. How about having the right amount of life insurance? A lot of things to consider there, too.
Yeah, and life insurance is an interesting one. People buy life insurance for different reasons. But what happens is, as we talked about just a minute ago, is people's needs change. So what we find is a lot of people have life insurance policies that they purchased that were there to serve a specific purpose. Now that purpose is no longer needed. So maybe that life insurance is no longer needed, or maybe that insurance could be used for a different purpose, such as, long-term care or something like that. So the nice thing with insurance is things have evolved. Life insurance has actually gotten cheaper, believe it or not, because people are living longer. So that's a nice thing, assuming you're still insurable. But life insurance offers a lot more benefits than it used to. So a lot of the older policies that were out there maybe just serve one purpose. Now policies can offer 2 or 3 different purposes. And so it makes sense, a lot of cases, to replace those and put a different type of plan in place to serve what your needs are currently. Or maybe you don't need that insurance at all, and the money that you're paying into that policy, or that you've already paid into that policy, can be used to fund some other type of financial goal.
Thanks for listening to the radio show today. Mark Silverman, of course, is a certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman & Associates. And wherever you are in the southern Arizona area, you can come in and have a conversation with Mark in his office in Tucson, and we'll tell you how to do that in just a few minutes here. We're talking about being out of tune. There are lots of ways that you can do that. How about having the right amount of cash in the bank? I know a lot of people make mistakes in this area.
Yeah, it's important that you don't want to have too much cash because obviously we know cash doesn't pay anything, but you need to have enough liquidity. And so as a financial planner, a certified financial planner, we tell people you need 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. And in some cases for our retired clients, we'll even be more conservative and we'll leave about 12 months worth of liquidity in their accounts. But it always amazed me. I just had somebody recently come into the office who actually met with somebody else from the radio. And I won't mention names, but I can just tell you this person is an annuity salesperson that they met with and basically came in and showed me what they'd put together, and they were being sold all annuities. Surprise, surprise. Mm-hmm. And what amazed me the most is the fact that they really didn't leave them any liquidity. They looked at all their accounts and basically told them to put all their money into, actually, it was, I think, 3 or 4 different annuities that they were going to do, but they ended up not doing, thank God. But what happened was that they didn't leave them enough liquidity. So if something were to happen, they would have some big problems because these annuities had, long-term, they had large surrender charges, et cetera, like things like that. So if they had gone through with that plan that this person had put together, I'm not even going to use advisor, that this salesperson had put together for them, they would have been in a much worse shape than they were before they even went into their office. So having the right amount of cash is important, but you need to know what that is, and everybody's situation is different, so that could vary as well.
And people definitely need to know the difference between a salesman and an advisor. And there's so many things to think about in this world of preparing for retirement that I know you take everything into consideration. And some of these folks are just interested in selling an annuity, as you mentioned, and most of the time that's a variable annuity.
Correct.
Also, we kind of touched on this a moment ago that, when you go through life, you are a little older, your risk tolerance becomes a little different, or certainly it should. Having the right amount of risk in your portfolio is a very important consideration.
Yeah, you always, risk is based on 2 things. One is what's your comfort level as far as your investments go. The other thing is that it needs to be compared to is how is that in relation to your overall financial plan? Is that risk appropriate to help you achieve your financial goals? It may or may not be. And unless somebody's building a financial plan for you, you don't know that. So what we do is we will really do a great job of analyzing the risk for our clients. And we will remonitor that every year or 2 as well. Because what tends to happen is you may be a certain risk tolerance today, but as you get closer to retirement, you tend to become more conservative. And then once you get into retirement, you may even become even more conservative. Not every case, but typically that's what happens. So it's important that your risk changes as you get older and as your goals change. So it's important that those 2 things are always happening together in unison to making sure that your investments are managed and the risk is managed appropriately at all times.
Mark, I know that a lot of people are listening to our conversation out there today, and they're going to want to come in and have a conversation with you in your office. And certainly when they do that, they're under no obligation at all. It's not going to cost them anything. But what happens when they walk into your door?
Well, whether you're a first-time listener to the show or you've heard me for a long time, if anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your chance to come in and have a conversation with me in my office to go through this process that we call the financial physical. And I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we will discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who is actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. And as part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets. And we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value, a chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone, however, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Mark Silverman can be reached at 520-333-7601. You can call that number, or you can send a text to it, 520-333-7601. That'll put you in touch with Silverman and Associates. And of course, Mark Silverman can provide for you the financial, physical. There's no obligation, no cost. Come on in for a conversation. That's all it is. You're going to learn a lot, and you'll be glad you did. 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional at Silverman and Associates. I'm Ron Stutz. Mark and I will be back in just a moment.
You finished school and worked hard to get your first job. You told yourself you'd save for retirement, but that old jalopy you bought when you were 16 broke down, so you bought a new one. You started to save, and soon you bought your first home. Then came pets, kids, and your world changed some more. You worked hard to provide for your family. You made sure your kids got a good education. You might be sending them to school right now, or maybe it's the grandkids' turn. And of course, you're now making sure your parents are looked after. Through the years you lovingly sacrificed for your family, now it's time to take care of you. Love others well by taking care of yourself. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman to discover how to build a financial plan that'll continue providing for you and the ones you love for years to come.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. We appreciate your listening to the show today. I'm Ron Stutz, hanging out with Mark here for a little while, and let's talk about living the dream. Before you can live the retirement dream, you have to figure out what the dream looks like in the first place. Identify what it is that you want to do in your retirement. Figure out exactly how you want your retirement to look. Well, let's talk about some of the things that folks need to dream about. Mark, you ready for this?
Let's give it a shot.
All right, you got to think about who you're going to hang out with. Who will your social circle consist of? Who will you spend your time with, who may not necessarily be involved in your work now, because, when you're working every day, you're seeing people at work, but after you retire, that's not going to be the case.
It's true. That's true. And I've said this before, but we can put a plan together for your money, but you need to put a plan together for your time. And I think, most people don't spend enough time thinking about these sorts of things of what they're going to do in retirement, which is so important, because we'll help people through the planning process and trying to figure out what they might spend so we can calculate if they're going to have enough money or not to do all the things that they want to do. But in order to do so, we need to understand what it is that you want to do. And you can't just go with what your friend might be spending in retirement, because everybody's situation is different. But who you're going to hang out with, what kind of things you're going to do, I think are very important. Are you going to be hanging out with friends that are out of state that you need to travel? Because there's, probably a cost associated with that. Are you going to stay local? I mean, really, what kind of things are you going to do is so important to understand.
Well, here's one that I'm going to have to give a lot of thought to before I retire, if I ever retire. Where will you eat? How often will you eat at home, and how often will you eat out at restaurants? And I'll admit right now, my wife and I don't really cook very much at home. We like going out to eat, and I have a feeling a lot of people are in that same boat.
Yeah, and there's certainly nothing going wrong with going out to eat. We do the same thing, but you've got to understand that there's a cost to that, and you got to make sure that you understand the cost and it's built into your budget as well. Eating at home also can be healthier too, depending on what you cook. And so, we just started getting into the meals that they mail to you and you cook them at home.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah, it's actually really good. And so it's kind of a fun thing to do too. But, those have a cost also. There's a convenience factor of having everything cut up and organized instead of having to buy all the ingredients yourself and figuring it out.
Sure.
But there is a fee for that convenience too. But again, if you want to eat out a lot or you don't eat out a lot, it depends on what you want to do. But, there's a cost for that as well.
Certainly is going to be a big factor in your budget for sure. What activities, I'm talking about day to day here, what activities will your average day consist of? That's something everybody needs to think about.
Right. Are you going to be on the golf course? Are you going to be playing pickleball? Are you going to be playing tennis? Whatever it might be, those things do have costs. Or are you going to be donating your time, at your, church or synagogue or wherever it might be and doing some charity work? Certainly nothing wrong with that, but those things don't cost money. So it's important that we understand what you're going to be doing with your time so we can coordinate and figure out what you might be spending so we can put a budget together for you that's going to be sustainable.
The important thing for our listeners to know is that Mark Silverman really considers all aspects of your life and tries to get you to do the same thing, because you have to have a good idea of what your retirement wants to look like. And it's not just a matter of money, but it's a matter of thinking about how you're going to spend your time, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, all that sort of thing. Here's one that's important, and a lot of people just kind of skip over this and don't think about it. When you're going to work every day, you're getting a certain amount of exercise, some walking in and all that sort of thing. But what are you going to do after you retire in the way of exercise?
Yeah, hopefully you're exercising while you are working or doing some type of regimen. But, if you're going to be playing a sport or you're walking, whatever it might be, or if you're not, you need to get on some type of plan, because, we all know that the older you get, the harder it gets. So exercise is important. I work out regularly, but it's important to do something that you enjoy doing, that's going to be sustainable, that's going to keep you active, whatever it might be.
Well, the final one here I wanted to mention, Mark, is how much will you travel? This can get really expensive. A lot of folks have lots of different reasons for traveling, even if it's just to go see somebody. Where are you going to travel? You need to have a conversation about that before you retire.
Yeah, and most people have some type of, of doing so many of these plans. A lot of people we do put a travel budget in, or we figure out what they're going to be spending on travel. But there again, that could vary as well, because, depending on what type of travel. Are you going to be traveling across country? Are you going to be traveling around the world? Are you going to be doing cruises? Are you going to buy an RV and drive around? Are you going to, some people want to buy a boat. Everybody's got a different vision. If your children or grandchildren are far away, then you might be spending a lot of money on airfare going back and forth. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. But we need to come up with a reasonable amount that you might be spending, so we can kind of project out in the future to make sure that you're going to have the money to do all the things that you want to do without the fear of running out of money.
So many things to think about when it comes to retirement. The important thing is not only to get ready financially, but to get ready with all the other aspects of your life and decide exactly what you want your retirement to look like. And that's one of the things that Mark will talk to you about, and then he can help you put together a plan. And that's the key word, plan. Everybody needs a plan. And if you don't have it written down somewhere, you don't really have a plan. Saving with Silverman is the name of our show. And if you'd like to come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman in his office about your situation, Mark, what happens when they come in?
Well, just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So whether you're a do-it-yourselfer or already working with someone, this is now your opportunity to go through this process we call the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing you? If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? I can assure you, I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we'll address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you some general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who is actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who've saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP, such as myself, can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial health. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We try our best to help everyone. However, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. Go ahead and call that number right now. Don't even wait until the end of the show. 520-333-7601. If you prefer, you can simply shoot a text to that number right now. Just be sure and include your first and last name, and Mark's office will get back with you, and then you can set a time later to come in and have a conversation. No obligation, no cost conversation. You don't even even have to worry about having your appointment calendar in front of you right now. You don't have to know any numbers right now. Just go ahead and reach out and make contact, and then the rest will be easy. 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member, in fact, of Silverman and Associates. If you'd like to go on the web and check out Mark and his business, go to savingwithsilverman.com. savingwithsilverman.com. This is Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz, along with Mark Silverman.
You've got questions. We've got answers. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman. We certainly appreciate your being with us today. This is the radio show that Mark Silverman's been doing for quite some time. He's on the radio every week, and certainly we're glad to have you along. 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601. You can call that number, or you can send a text to it, whatever you like. A lot of people these days text a lot more than they call. And again, the number is 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional, the founder of Silverman and Associates. And when you come in and have a conversation, you're going to have a conversation with Mark. He's not going to put you off on anybody else at all. The number, again, to call and set up a no obligation, no cost conversation is 520-333-7601. Time for the request line. We have some great questions that have come in, as always, Mark. And today our first question is from Rhonda in Marana. Rhonda says, I need about $5,000 to live on each month in retirement. My Social Security and pension will total about $5,300. Does this mean I'll be able to leave my entire 401k behind to my son?
Well, Rhonda, that's a great question. I wouldn't go leaving it to your son as of yet. Depending on how old you are, what you haven't factored in is inflation. So, we use a 3% inflation rate in our practice, which means you lose about a third of purchasing power every 10 years. So if you're in your 60s and your life expectancy, let's say, is 90 something, you could be looking at a 30-year retirement. So Social Security does go up a little bit, not 3%. Most pensions, unfortunately, don't go up a lot or at all. So there's a good chance that you'll probably be dipping into your 401k to make up the difference. And if you need certain things, your air conditioning breaks, or you want to take a special trip, whatever it might be, you might be dipping into that extra money there for those purposes. So again, it's important to have a plan. Just because the numbers look like they make sense today, that could change in the future. Or if you need healthcare, we didn't even talk about that. But if there's long-term care situation, or you need to go into a nursing home, that could become a big, big problem. So great question, but happy to help if you want to reach out.
Well, it sounds like on the surface that she's in pretty good shape, but you never know. There's so many things to consider. And Mark, being a financial planner professional, is the one who can help you get a handle on all of that stuff. Thanks for the question. Okay, we have one more question today from Mary in Vail. And Mary says she has a stockbroker that she's been working with for the last 30 years, long before she even moved to Vail. She says she likes him very much and she thinks he does a great job, but she really has no way of knowing. How can she grade his performance?
Well, Mary, it really depends on if you feel you're getting value. Hopefully you know what you're paying. Unfortunately, people that operate under the stock brokerage relationship, and I spent, that's where I started out of college, was working for one of the wirehouses here in Tucson. And so we were stockbrokers. So we were selling investment insurance products to people, typically with commissions. A lot of them have moved to fee-based, but you need to know what the fees that you're paying and then what kind of investments are you using. If you're using mutual funds, there's underlying expenses for that. So I think the important thing to do is really understand the total cost of what you're paying for, and then you can kind of help determine if you're receiving the value. If they're just providing investment advice, I can tell you that's the old mentality of this business. If you're just focused on, a certain product, or you're just focused on some type of investment management only, you're going to be a dinosaur in this business. Financial planning is really the key. People want more than just how to manage their investments. They want to know, when should they take Social Security? How should they take their pension? What's going to happen with if they don't have long-term care, what's that going to look like? Do they have enough insurance? Is their money going to be passed on to their children or grandchildren in the most tax efficient way? If they want to leave a legacy, how can they minimize taxes? There's so many different pieces of the puzzle. How's their estate plan? There's lots of different things that we do as a certified financial planner that a typical financial advisor does, or stockbroker in the case that you put. And so that's the sort of thing. If you want to come in and have a conversation, we can kind of outline what it is that we do versus outline what you're getting, and then you can make a comparison to see if that's the kind of services that you need. Most people, I would argue, need those services, but they're not getting those services and don't realize that there are people that can help in those situations.
A lot of great questions today, and a lot of other people have questions out there as well. And Mark, for those folks who may get in touch with you after the show today, certainly I know you have a few spots remaining. If they go ahead and call right now, what happens when they walk into your door?
Sure, Ron. So here's a simple question. And I want to thank everybody for asking those questions this week. But I just want to remind everyone, if you go to the website, which is savingwithsilverman.com, that's savingwithsilverman.com. If you click on the media tab, there's a place to submit your question. And if you do submit it on there, there's a good chance you'll hear it here on the air. So now's my chance to ask you a question, and can you answer it honestly and objectively as possible? Aside from the happy hellos and how's the family, and aside from the occasional lunch or golf game, I get it. I'm as much friends with many of my clients. They become true friends over the many years. But I think the question has to be asked, especially in light of the stakes. Is your current financial advisor truly adding value beyond a doubt? And I'll repeat, is your current financial advisor truly adding value? It's a valid question, as a friendship or just relationship allows you not to be in a position to ask those critical questions. Are you talking about taxes? Are you talking about Social Security and income and risk and diversification and insurance and estate planning and healthcare? Are you having those annual reviews? But hopefully it's more frequently than that. Is there detailed follow-up? Is there accountability? If you are, if all of that is happening, congratulations, because you've got a great relationship, and send your financial advisor a thank you. But if you're not having that, if you're not feeling the value, if you're not having these in-depth conversations, then you owe it to yourself and really to your family to have a conversation with someone else, because if you don't, you're the one that's going to suffer. You're the one that's going to pay the cost, and it'll cost you in more ways than you'll ever know. Let us prove to you how we can help your money go further in retirement. Let us show you with our financial physical. I believe you'll be surprised at what you'll learn, and this won't cost you anything. Give us a call or send us a text to 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601, or check us out online at savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601 is your number to call or text. That is 520-333-7601. If you don't have a financial advisor, well, certainly you need one. And if maybe you've been working with an advisor for quite some time who's really more of a salesperson than an advisor, or maybe you do have an advisor, you certainly would like to get a second opinion, come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman about your situation. It's not going to cost you anything, and it certainly would be very meaningful for you and very informative. 520-333-7601 is your number to call or text. That is 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional, founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. Wherever you are, go ahead and give Mark a call, and you can make that get-together happen. Mark, it's been a real pleasure being with you again today.
Ron, always happy to be here. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen today.
Join us again next time for the next edition of Saving with Silverman.
Silverman and Associates Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, product, service, or investment strategy. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy or recommendation discussed herein.